This is the gospel according to the IRS, Breaking Points, and Church Financial Updates. And now, here's the authority, Dr. Michael Chitwood, and Breaking Points.
I'm Michael Chitwood. Today we're going to talk about the number one subject in America today for churches and bookkeepers and treasurers across America. I'll tell you what you're going to find out, though. You're going to find out some new information, breaking news, that you never knew was the right way to do it. I'm going to talk to you about love offerings. L-O-V-E, love. Everybody loves love offerings, especially pastors and ministers of the gospel. They like those love offerings because most of them think they're tax-free. Well, some love offerings are tax-free, and there's some love offerings that are not tax-free. Your job as a church bookkeeper, pastor, deacon, elder, you better make sure that you know unequivocally which one is subject to taxable income. Section 61 of the Internal Revenue Code says this: what the compensation is called, how the compensation is computed, and the form of payment are immaterial. You need to probably write that word down, immaterial, because what that means, you can write love offering down all day on the bottom of that check, but if it's not a true non-taxable love offering, what you've written on that check is totally immaterial. Say that with me, immaterial. Say it again, immaterial. It's what? Immaterial. So let's start, if we can, with love offerings. Grab your pad and pen and let's get started with breaking points for today. The one sure way to determine that you'll always have a taxable love offering is to see if there's any strings attached or any service attached to that event. So the number one thing I want you to write down, because this outweighs everything that you could possibly acquire in information from anybody. And remember, always follow someone that knows what they're talking about. Always follow someone that's represented more cases than anybody in America. Always follow someone that has thousands of churches and clients. Don't follow somebody that's just now starting in business saying they know all about churches and they tell you to do this and do that. If you are going to do that, have them write it to you in a letter. We call that a legal opinion or a letter of an opinion. So here we go. Can we do this? The love offerings, the one sure way to determine that you'll always have a taxable love offering is to see if there's any service attached to that event. You need to make a note there. There's three things. A, past, B, present, and C, future. So anything past, present, or future, you're going to have to make sure qualifies for a taxable love offering. The one sure way to determine that you'll always have a taxable love offering is to see if there's any service attached to that event. The opposite of taxable love offering is a non-taxable love offering. Please make a note of this. Number one, love offerings cannot be solicited. You cannot solicit a love offering for the tax-free rules. Number one, love offerings cannot be solicited. Number two, love offerings must be spontaneous in nature. They have to be spontaneously moved at that time that they've called for. Spontaneously moved in action. Number three, love offerings must be clearly defined as a gift with no service attached. Love offerings must be clearly defined as a gift with no service. The key word there, underline it, no service attached. Number three, love offerings must be clearly defined as a gift with no service attached. You're getting that down okay? Number four, love offerings cannot qualify as a tax deduction for the person that gave it. We call them the donor or the giver. Donations cannot qualify as a tax deduction. Love offerings cannot qualify for the donor or the person that gave it. And the last one, number five, love offerings are motivated out of affection of an individual for another individual minister. So it's important for us, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that as we go through this process, that you understand that we have taxable love offerings and we have non-taxable love offerings. The one sure way to determine that you'll always have a taxable love offering is to see if there's any service attached to that event, either past, present, or future. Now, I've given you the definition for taxable. I've given you the definition for non-taxable. Your job now is to go back and check all the checks for the last 3 years, because the IRS statute of limitations is 3 years. Remember, if the end of 1 year is wrong, the beginning of the new year will be wrong. So you can't have the end of a year wrong and start with the new year right. We have to go back at least 3 years. I want you to examine every check that you've written out of your checkbook, because you're a check writer. I want you to examine it, and I want you to see if it's marked love offering and see if it qualifies for taxable or non-taxable. If it was taxable, you should have made sure that they either got a 1099 form or a W-2. If you didn't do that, you've broken the law. And you could have all these penalties assessed upon you individually because you are the fiduciary agent. You are the responsible party. I want to ask you, when are you going to get your house in order? Because God wants to bless you. God wants to bless your church. And you know what I've seen over my lifetime? From my father to our firm now. Guess what? Every church that gets their house in order, it seems like that the tithes and offerings just explodes, because God can bless a house that's in order. I'm Michael Chitwood.
Breaking Points gives you the latest IRS updates and tax law. Pastor, if the IRS came to your church today, what would you say? If you really want your house of worship in order, call 1-800-345-9117.